Hello, welcome to the Age of Sigmar Stats Centre. I'm your host, Rob, and I'm joined by the wonderful Twitch chat, my herd of bovine best friends. And we are looking at the event results from this weekend for the Age of Sigmar tournaments that happened over the course of the weekend. We're going to look at the lists, and we're going to look at some stats, and hopefully, by the end of this podcast and or YouTube show and or Twitch show, you feel more informed, more entertained, and maybe just a little happier. Things you can do to help: like, subscribe, leave some comments below, and if you don't do that, you're a piece of shit. Yeah. Also, following that up, if you just listen to us as a podcast or something else, please join my Patreon. Please, please join my Patreon. Like a $5, £10 a month. Come on, just please. That's all I got to say. Now, on for the stats. Okay, so there's some amazing stats, right? Shout out to Ziggy and Rob from the Age of Sigmar Stats Centre crew. Now, they've been able to put some amazing information together that's new. Now, we've got 22 tournaments into the Age of Sigmar Stats, which you can find on the honest-wargamer.com and in the show notes below. Now, there's meta participation is in effect. Let's talk about a couple of bits. Stormcast Eternal is still the most popular, but Sylvaneth has skyrocketed to being the second most popular faction in Age of Sigmar, which is not a surprise to me. Daughters of Cain and Nighthaunt still the third most popular together at 3%, with Idoneth Deepkin, Nurgle at the top, and then Seraphon. So a load of new books are very popular. That is, as is tradition. Right. Okay, so that's the meta participation. Not much to say there, really, apart from obviously new books get new players, which is actually really interesting because I think one of the most popular armies for a very, very long time was Seraphon and Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth had a terrible book for an entire duration of its book, 3 years, basically, 3 or 4 years. Only person in the world I know who was able to do quite well with it was Mr. Matt Mallow, friend of the show and member of Team Lit. So only person I knew who could do really well with it. However, as many other people claimed they could but didn't. The thing to talk about with that is I think lots of people had Sylvaneth armies in their garages and ready to go, very much kind of like the Ironjaw situation. However, I think that's also going to be true for Lumineth Realmlords and Tzeentch when both of those two books land later in the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a magic-dominant meta in the summer, or I mean we're past the summer, whenever they come out, which I think will be in the next couple of months. Because that's going to really change the shape of the meta as well. But right now, loads of Sylvaneth, loads of Stormcast, which is not a surprise at all. But yeah, Jeffrey says that the Magic meta is here, but I think the Magic meta is going to be even more here, which I think is interesting. Okay, so the other thing to look at, if we look at... Oh, we could quickly look at win rates. Just very quickly to just kind of start the show off. So Bone Splitters still haven't had enough event results in here, in my opinion, for it to be worth it. Only 22 matches. But they've dropped from there 13 tournaments, 77% win rate to 57. So I think you'll see that level off under 55. Now, Carriage and Overlords is an interesting one. Slightly double the matches that Bone Splitters have at 57%. I think Carriage and Overlords not only are a faction that may get even more players playing over the next 6 months as people realise that they're very, very good. Shout out to Jeremy and Carl, the Baal, C's up, B's down, for really showing people how good this army can be. So I think you'll see Bone Splitters go down and level off. I think you'll see the meta representation for Carriage and Overlords go up, and you might also see the win rate go even higher, which I think is crazy. Sons of Behemoth, let's go. Me and Tom are on this as a bet. Sons of Behemoth at 56%. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going to the moon. Like right now, take 4 giants, go to a tournament. I think you've got some great opportunities to do incredibly well at those tournaments, in my opinion. Yeah, I think they're going to go up and up and up. Now, Disciple Tzeentch at 55% win rate. Just some people really helping with that. Not sure who. But shout out to all of my brothers and sisters who can see into the future, and NBs, of course. Sylvaneth at 54. Now, the key point to take away, and Ziggy and Rob wanted me to express this point, and I agree with it a lot, is the meta's pretty healthy. We say that armies should be between 55% and 45%, which gives us like a good wash of armies. The only things over there are 3 aberrant armies at the minute. I think Bone Splitters will go under 55, but I think Suns and KO might go over and might keep going up. We'll see. Suns definitely, KO maybe. However, and then you've got a huge pile of armies in the mid bracket, and then under 45%, you've got Legion of the First Prince just on it, but it's literally just a pamphlet, so who really cares about it as like a book, but it's a cool army, definitely. And then you've got Cruel Boys, just terribly put together book. Glimpse Gits at 39%, which is actually massive news. Ladies and gentlemen, not to the bottom faction in all of Age of Sigmar. Welcome, Gloomspite Gits, to your glow up after the big change up. They've gone from 33% to now 39%. They are threatening, that's right, threatening the 45% bracket. They are pushing their way up. They are piling out of the dank hold. Shout out to players like Dom, sorry, and the Celestin Slime. On doing that. And then you've got Ogre Tribes, 38%, but we know they're getting a new book along with Sons of Behemoth. So like, I wouldn't be too stressed about that. Plus, their book was pretty like DOA, right? Like they had Stonehorns, and then that whole book was rubbish. The only people that were able to ever do anything more interesting with that I ever saw was obviously Stuart Iron Gutsman. What a legend and a babe! Was able to not only build an Iron Guts list, but also Yeti builds, which I thought was fascinating back in the day. I don't think they're anywhere near as relevant now. But then half of that book was just absolutely dead on arrival, which would obviously be the Gluttons portion of the book. And so that just needs a new book. So I'm really excited to see what they do with that. It desperately doesn't need to be a copy and paste like we saw with Skaven. And instead, that needs to kind of get the glow up that we saw Sylvaneth have. And they've languished low enough in the meta that I think that could be the case. Yeah, so let's hope. Let's hope for some big, chunky, beefy, like going to wrap you in their big cuddly arms ogres. Get a big glow up when their book comes. OC Bone Reapers and Flesh Eater Courts to the bottom. So 2 of our 4 death factions at the bottom of the pile. It's pretty interesting because it's in stark comparison to, in my opinion, what is the very threatening nature of the Nighthaunt army at 53%. OC Bone Reapers are in an interesting place, but we saw Swaggy Shadowsword recently go 5-0 with a really, really clever list over in the USA, using that Bone Tie Shrieker and Arcan. I think was kind of quite key for his success there, and I think that's very clever. I think, again, it's a bit situational, but my kind of general conclusion for Age of Sigmar at the moment is that it's a player's game. The higher your skill ability and skill expression, the better you'll do. And I also think that it's very matchup dependent, not to quote one of the teams from the event this weekend. There's some real matchup dependent games, and there's also matchup dependent battle plans. So you've got like I don't think the who you play into has been as severe, or what you play into has been as severe as it is in this edition. However, I still think the skill expression is really good, and I think there's also something to say about points as well in a deep dive. If we just take a look at Adam Mumford's list that did really well last week, he's got this amazing ability to deny you 1 extra victory point a turn. The way he did that is because he had 10 cockatrices. Each one is 5, counts as 5 on an objective. So what he would do, he would always just make it so that he would always score more. Or he would make it so he denied your ability to score more. So you might hold 2, you might hold none because you might be able to flood the board. But what he would make it so that you just lost a point. So you lost a point, lost a point, lost a point, lost a point. That's pretty interesting, because I think that that's pretty telling. And if you can destroy someone's ability to achieve their grand strategy, that 3-point swing is also going to be huge as well. So that's up to an 8-point differential in a match. And most games, in my opinion, you should be scoring 20 points. That's your average. Yeah, so that's your battle tactics and holding 2. That's on a kind of general battle plan, which is why I think Galician veterans may become a little bit more in favour for being able to do barge to enemy lines. That bonus victory point might be the difference in people's ability to win or lose games. We'll see. So super interesting stuff. Okay. Tree rev stonks. Yeah, huge stonks, right? But that extra additional 1 point Really, really important. Okay, so meta looking pretty healthy. Obviously, some books need a big glow up. Games Workshop have made an effort with Gloomspite Gits at least. Ogres, they haven't, but we got a new book coming. Bone Reapers, they're in a really weird spot because they could just literally change some of their core allegiance abilities right now and bring them more in line, or just drop some points and cause some real nightmares for people. They're not doing it, so that's on them for not doing it. Flesh Eater Courts suffered all since Age of Sigmar 3 started. So anyway, now all of this is pretty important, and let's just take a look at some of the new armies, by the way. If you look at Sylvaneth between June and July, doubled their meta representation. Tripled. Sylvaneth tripled their meta representation. You should expect to see tons of Sylvaneth on the tabletop. And I think you're going to continue to see tons of Sylvaneth on the tabletop. Very much like I expect Skaven to take a sharp decline in the next 6 months. I don't expect them to keep skyrocketing upwards. I think you'll see them drop off very quickly as people realise it's pretty much the same book with the same flaws and problems it had, whereas the Sylvaneth book is like a new set of tools for people who want to do really fun and engaging stuff for themselves on the tabletop. So I expect that meta representation maybe doesn't go any higher, but could easily get higher in my opinion. Nighthorn also up there as well. They've both got about the same meta representation of 7% as I talked about, and they've both got the same win rate. And what's interesting is they kind of represent two extremes of what you may have to deal with in-game when you're thinking about writing lists. Both of them pose very different problems. The Sylvaneth armies should be shooting and dealing with a lot of your strength at range, like projecting power either through shooting or through incredibly long movement and charges, whereas the Nighthorn, slightly slower really as an army, but destroying their castle is incredibly tough to do, as is doing any magic into them. So they're very different. Like one's like a scalpel and one's like a giant anvil that you're going to die upon, which is kind of interesting. So okay, so now with that said, we get some really interesting stuff, thanks to Ziggy and Rob, which is happening over here on page 8 of the stats. So this is our drops and first turn choice. We talked about this already, but effectively, the chart on the right-hand side, as you can see, we're looking at what percentage of army lists are 1-drop. 12% of all army lists are 1-drop, 5% are 2-drop, 9% are 3-drop, 10% are 4-drop. Okay, and then it spikes up again around 8, 9, and 10 drops. So you got 10, 12. So what is it? 22, 31%. 31% of all the drops, so a third, happen at 8, 9, and 10 drops, whereas 12% happens at a 1-drop. This means this gives you an opportunity to have a 90 or 89% chance of getting the choice to go first, with an 11% chance of a roll-off. 89%, which is great. Yeah, and then 2 drops is 80%, and then 3, 4, and 5 drops all equal out. And this is pretty much, in my opinion, battle regiments with either unmatched conquerors or bounty hunters. And they still give you way over half. Okay, you've got 66% chance, so 2/3 chance that you're going to get the choice to go first, which I think is pretty key. In my personal opinion, you've got a really, really strong chance if you can build all of your army into a 1-drop. Personally, I think the Nighthorn out there in the world don't hate the idea of being a 3-drop. So 2 bounty hunter units and a battle regiment, in my opinion, does not hurt anyone. Just makes them take an additional cruciator, unless you're pumping loads of damage 1 stuff into damage 2, in which case there's no real point, and you should stay as a 1-drop, because really all you're doing is playing into their game anyway, because they've got the cruciator as is. So but if you're damage 2 moving into damage 3 because of bounty hunters, then I think you're in a good spot, because then you maintain your damage profile, but you do take a 30% dip in the choice to go first, which is interesting. Now, Rob in the chat, who's one of the people helping with the stats, says slide 13 says Sylvaneth versus Nighthorn. Sylvaneth win 80% of the game at 1 event. So we could look at some armies versus armies in a bit, because I think there's some really nice, like how the armies play and what they do, which we'll discuss later. Okay. So then, if we just take a moment to look at battalions and grand strategies, we've got Bounty Hunters are 63% of all the battalions taken. Battle Regiment is 44%, and Expert Conquerors is 39%. Don't forget, Battle Regiment only being 44% of the battalions taken, I think is very interesting, because I think you're combining them with Bounty Hunters. So you're seeing Bounty Hunters, Battle Regiment together, or you're seeing Bounty Hunters then something else. Battle Regiment 44%, Expert Conquerors 39%, Command Entourage 26%, and then Warlord 22%. And then you've got 28% of the grand strategies are take what's theirs. Take what's theirs, which is have more units in their deployment than they have in your deployment. That's really than they have in their deployment. It's pretty interesting. And then you've got 24% of them are no place for the weak, and then there's some severe drop off. So this really does indicate, and then 12% of the choices, are defend what's ours. So you're looking at over 50% of the grand strategies really exist between these two grand strategies at the top. They're pretty interesting. I think they're definitely more interesting than the grand strategies in Age of Sigmar 3.0 to 3.2. My opinion. I think they're fast. Like they provide a lot more turn 5 interaction and thought processes. Turn 4 going into turn 5, thinking about what you're going to do, where you're going to be, what you're trying to achieve. As noted earlier by someone in the chat, I think the reason Take What's Theirs is so popular is because so many of the battle tactics really reward you from being aggressive into their deployment. As I talked about earlier with scoring, also grabbing additional objectives to score is key. So, fascinating information. Shout out to Ziggy and Rob. You can find these all on the honest-wargamer.com if you're looking in the stats. So, our first event that we're going to look at is in Poland. In Poland, 72 players, and Europe's largest event, I think, in a good long while, or definitely this year, which I think is really interesting. So, in first place, we had a Beast House list run by Robert Rupert Rajowski. He had a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and this is all in Gav spawn. So the ability to use a command ability for a spawn to give +1 attack to a melee weapon profile to a unit, which is very, very good. 2 Dragon Ogre Shaggoths. They've obviously, one of them's got the Arcane Tome. So it's gonna be able to cast 2 spells, which I think is nice and clever. 2 Doom Balls. I quite like 2 Doom Balls. 2 little small aggressive units that you can use to grab objectives and charge stuff for 110 points. That's some really good output. And then the ability to just put something on an objective worth 2 points as well. I don't hate that at all. I think that's quite clever. 9 Dragon Ogres, 6 Dragon Ogres, and then another 6 Dragon Ogres, and they're all in Bounty Hunters. So that +1 damage is going to be really effective. But really, the key part here, although obviously that's huge, +1 damage into Gallivets, the key part here is obviously that rally on a 4-up, and then eventually their rend. Meaning that 6 Dragon Ogres are amazing just for taking damage and then rallying them all back. 9 Dragon Ogres is even better. Normally you want to spend those reinforcement points on something else because you're taking 2 of your reinforcement slots. But it's fantastic. You can wipe out you're looking at 45 wounds there. You can wipe out the front 40 wounds in front of you, and then an Inspiring Presence and a rally in the next turn, and you're going to have a huge portion of that back. They're a great wound sink unit. It would have been really interesting to have seen them going somewhere like this for maybe some sort of Sylvaneth unit or something like that, but because of that kind of regrowing nature, I don't really get it for for Beast of Chaos, but it is what it is, right? So there's going to be a lot of wounds in this army, right? 151. Oh, it's not a lot actually. 151 wounds. That's a little bit above average. And then 2 Chaos Spawn, and then the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. So 400 points on that big boy. Does everything that we said before, but it's going to pin you in. Make it so you can't retreat. If it kills a monster, it's going to go up a level. It's going to be in a really good space, and then then you're going to be able to not retreat from it, which is going to be really good. And then it's the summoning that does so well here. The summoning that does so well for Beasts of Chaos. You've got the ability to deny grand strategies, the ability to achieve battle tactics your opponent wasn't expecting, or grand strategies your opponent wasn't expecting. Going into turn 5, you can have some summoning points and the ability to win games. Absolutely massive. Now, the scoring looked a little bit odd here, so I'm not going to go through all the 4-1s, and instead we're just going to pick out one of the 4-1s, which is Mateus, and he was running a Nalariel list in Gnarl Root. He had a Battle Mage, obviously, for the pluses to charge, so from the realm of Gur, so that's an ally. Then Alariel, a Spirit of Durthu, and then a Warsong Revenant. And he's got the Greenwood Gladius as well for those extra attacks. Warsong Revenant was the general with Spell Slinger, so the ability to cast spells through woods, which means they can do their War Scroll spell, which is an AoE Mortal Wound Bomb. And in addition, and I really love this because this is something I've wanted to take for a while, is the Vengeful Skull Root, which is again another Mortal Wound Bomb spell, which they're going to do at range because they're going to cast it through the wood that they cast these spells through. So you've got the real ability early to do a lot of mortal wound damage into an opponent's army, which is pretty scary. The army is in a battle regiment and a commander entourage, making it a 4-drop. So it should have a 64% chance of being able to get the choice to go first. So a little bit above average choice to go first. And then Lariel is going to be really, really aggressive because the ability to move incredibly far up the board, charge, and then obviously you strike and fade away, teleport out of there is really effective. 10 Dryads, 2x5 Tree Revenants for that amazing bars to enemy lines, 3 points, early play if you want, or just to grab an objective later. So, biggest event. Poland's got an amazing scene. They got a really good team that went to Worlds. They always take super rock hard lists. I think it's true to say that sometimes you see lists in Poland and you end up seeing it pop up in different metas later on in the year. So if you get the opportunity, I would go and look at all of the lists from this event, and you can obviously go check out them in the show notes now. Okay, so over to Canada, so the North American meta, and we're looking at the Season of War Grand Tournament. In first place and top of our 5-0 bracket was Ridge Hanna with his Fangs of Sotek Seraphon list, and then Ruben Parker with the Sons of Behemoth list as well. I knew that they were going to start popping up around here as well, so shout out to Ruben. Ridge, fantastic human being. Got the pleasure to meet and hang out with him very recently when I was over in the US. Fun, charming, and a real sport on the tabletop. So I don't think there's anyone you would really want to represent the hobby and go 5-0 more than Ridge. Well done to him. And he was running a quality list. Fangs of Sotek in Seraphon. Now, Fangs of Sotek give you the ability. They've got summoning and they've got a teleport, which is different to what a lot of the Seraphon lists you may have faced in the past year have been, which have been Thunder Lizard lists. So that's something to watch out for and may have caught some people out. And in addition, they've got a command ability for the Skinks, where if you shoot, they get to run away on a 4+ after they've overwatched. Now, some other kind of follow-up bits as well, is they've obviously got that additional movement on Skinks early on, which is pretty key, which makes the 30 block of Skinks that he's got in his army really effective. He's also got the Slan with the command trait Arcane Might, and he's got the artifact, the Arcane Tome, making him an additional wizard, which means when you sacrifice a spell to be able to turn into some summoning, you give up no spells for these slans, which are really good. He's got a Skink Star Priest, a Skink Priest, and a Skink Saurus Ashroth Bannerbearer, and it's going to be that Ashroth Bannerbearer and Stellar Tempest, which is going to be really good for keeping Nighthaunt in check for those horde clearing spells. Then you've got 30 Skinks, 2 lots of 10 Skinks and 5 Saurus Guard, then 2 lots of 2 Salamanders, and then a Bastiladon with the Arc of Sotek. Then he's got a Purple Sun and Ravanax Gnashing Jaws. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that this has got all of the tools that you really need. Okay, you come up against something with good armor. Sure, you've got mortal wounds coming out of the Salamanders, as well as being able to reduce their save with the Purple Sun, with good spell casting from the Slan and all of the additional mortal wounds. Okay, you're coming up against Nighthorn or something that needs you to roll loads of dice. Well, no problem. You've got a horde clearing spell, or you've got 30 Skinks dishing out a ton of shots as well, and being able to do a ton of shots in combat. Not forgetting, in addition, they can also do mortal wounds on 6s to wound, thanks to the Skink Star Priest or Priest, whichever the fuck one it is. They've also got the spell, the Prayer Curse, which is on 4-up. You can stop that. So you've got this kind of like toolbox of units and abilities to put where you want into the opposing army. You've got good screens, you've got summoning, and you've got some really scary output. So yeah, just a real good toolbox. You also had the Bastiladon with the Arc of Sotek, which is just a great piece for just holding an objective and stopping your opponent from being able to go anywhere. It's just really good. If you get the curse off, they do additional mortals on 6s to hit and wound. Correct. That is correct. Thank you. Yes, I do know, but thank you for saying it. Of course. Right, and then our 5-0 Sons of Behemoth list. So he deserves a special shout out. Ruben if you're listening, well done, Ruben. You've nailed this. This is great. A Kraken Eater Mega Gargant, a Gatebreaker Mega Gargant with the Arcane Tome and Flaming Weapons, making him do just outrageous damage. 3 Man Crushers and a War Stomper Mega Gargant. Now, why do I think these are good? Because of their ability to count as more on objectives, it's very, very difficult to take objectives off them. This means, in my opinion, that it's very difficult to go up a few points for holding more, or even holding 2 in some cases on some of the battle plans. The scoring is generally pretty low on a lot of the battle plans in this edition. Also, you're able to charge into your opponent's territory, then you're able to do things like desecrate their lands and barge through enemy lines with your big monsters and do that really effectively, which is key. So you're strong on the primary, and you're pretty good on the secondaries as well in a load of different ways. If you're using... I think that Gargants have got some real play in this edition. Ruben proving it, so he should be super proud of himself there. Like, I think that's really good, especially before the new Sons of Behemoth book. So congratulations to him. Right, okay, so if we just take a look at the 4-1 bracket, got a nice mixture of different armies, actually. Nate Trentinelli with his Nighthaunt list. Hey, Nate, if you're listening, keep being hot, you big hunk of meat. Was running Scarlet Doom with 9 Spirit Hosts, which I think is one of the very few times I've ever seen it. 2 Spirit Torments, Guardian Souls, and a Krulgas Cruciator. 1 Spirit Torment was, of course, the Wizard in the army. He took the Master of Magic in the Arcane Tome. 9 Spirit Hosts, 2 lots of 10 Chain Rasps, and all of those were... The 9 Spirit Hosts and 2 Chain Rasps were... 2 10 Chain Rasps were all in Expert Conquerors. So that's going to be really tough to get rid of those Spirit Hosts. 2 lots of 20 Bladegeist Revenants are all in Bounty Hunters. So don't forget they're going to have that 4-up save and then maybe have a 5-up ward as well. Then 4 Mimron Banshees to kind of ward the whole army against spells, which I think is really clever. And then the Purple Sun. Really nice. Anthony Trentinelli was running the same list he won Summer Slaughter with, or he went 5-0 with Summer Slaughter with. So a big shout out and congratulations to him. Sorry, it wasn't won by him, but like he went 5-0 there. So that's the Bliss Barb Archers, so like our 50 Bliss Barb Archers, a Kronspine Incarnate, Blade Seeker, Contorted Epitome, Sigvald, all pinning the army. And you can go back and watch some of those games on the T Sports Network, Twitch, if you want to see how they played. Oliver Ganduit was running a Ironeth Deepkin list with a Soul Scryer, Lotan, and Soul Render, 30 Reavers. That's going to be 90 shots, which is crazy. Also an incredibly scary unit to charge, because obviously it can stand and shoot, and when it does... That's going to be 90 shots that ignore the -1 to hit because they've got a War Scroll ability for +1 to hit. So that's 90 shots, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1. You charge that with most stuff, it dies, which I think is really interesting. 2 lots of 10 Thralls and a Leviathan, and then 2 single Alapexes. I really like the Leviathan's inclusion here as well. It gives it like another major threat. I always think like a reinforced unit of Alapexes is something you definitely need to be conscious of, but it really doesn't have the output and singular point and click ability that a Leviathan does. Sorry. So I think that's really fun and really interesting to see. Oliver Dempsey was running a Sons of Behemoth list. Again, that was in the 4-1 bracket, but a War Stomper and a Gatebreaker, and then 3 Man Crushers, and then 3 Wands of Man Crushers. Is this the rise of the Man Crusher meta? Let's go. Who knows? It's incredible stuff. Like, really interesting. More Man Crushers. Those Man Crushers were all in Bounty Hunters, so they're going to be damage 2, which I think is genuinely really, really good because they get a lot of attacks and put them in the right place. They could do some real work. They're just really good for clearing like a 10-man screen or a 10-man objective holding unit, and those units do exist. Okay. We also had Carl Ong running the same list that he went 5-0 with at Summer Slaughter as well. So that would be a gun hauler, 10 of the gun hauler guys, what they call Grundstruck gun haulers, the frigate, the Ironclad, the Purple Sun, the 3x10 dudes, the Archanaut Company, the Kronspine Incarnate, and then some characters, one who's got Spell in the Bottle. Drop the Purple Sun, charge the Incarnate, shoot all your guns, bosh, 4-1. Let's go, Carl. C's up, B's down. Mitch was running a Nurgle list, and that Nurgle list was Festus, Lord of Afflictions, 3x4 Puskarl Blight Lords, and we talked about these lots on the show, and Horrorghast, which was such a nice little play in there. Love that, especially with the amount of attacks he's doing across that army. Horrorghast would be so good, and won't really hurt him because they're bravery 8. So even if you kill 2 of the Puskarl Blight Lords in a turn, which is a pretty strong effort to make that happen, because they've got a 4-up save, 8 wounds each, and a 5-up ward, you're still not going to run away, so you've got to kill 3. So that goes up to 24 wounds you've got to do. And then it's only on a 6. So I think you're pretty safe having Horrorghast in your own army, and he's fantastic against your opponents. So shout out to him. The Silverleaf list that did really well was Lady of Vines, a Tree Lord Ancient, and an Arch Revenant. This was all in the Heartwood, which meant the 2 units of 3 Kurnoth Hunters with great bows were battle line, great for sitting at the back of the field. And then the 6 Kurnoth Hunters with with Kurnoth Scythes were in Bounty Hunters along with a unit of Revenant Seekers. The Tree Lord Ancient had Gnarl Warriors, so it was ethereal, and was going to be running around with Lady of Vines, so was going to have a 5-up ward save, as was everything else. This is an interesting list because you assume it plays very much like a castle as an army. It's got healing, it's got the ability to put Kurnoths back into the units as well. Really like to see this play. Really like to see this play into different armies. Guess it's really tough to deal with some of those units here, but yeah. Such an interesting list, and that was run by Paul. And then Iron Jaws was running. Andrew Lack was running Iron Jaws, and that had an Uruk Megaboss, a War Chanter, another War Chanter, a Maw Crusher, 10 Brutes, 10 more Brutes, and 10 Arboys, and 3 lots of 3 Pigs. The Pigs were in Bounty Hunters, which I think is a great shout personally. And congratulations to them and everyone at the Canadian event. Hope you had a great time. Okay, so if we just take a moment to go over to the Quest of Champions Heat 4, we had 32 players vying it out, and no one went 5-0, but the only one with 4 and a draw was Andy Hughes with his Nighthaunt Scarlet Doom list. I played against this list. It's the only list that beat me at Clash a couple of weeks ago, and this is Nagash, Supreme Lord of the Undead in Scarlet Doom and Nighthaunt. A Spirit Torment with Master of Magic and the Arcane Tome, 20 Bladegeist Revenants, 2 lots of 10 Bladegeist Revenants, 2 Chain Gas, Chronomantic Cogs, and the Purple Son of Sheesh. Now, Cogs is obviously fantastic on Nagash, the ability to reroll all of his casts, so he doesn't miscast, which is really good when he can cast so many spells, and then he can generate a lot of mortal wounds and do a lot of arcane bolts. Seems kind of like the key trick here. Also, being able to put the 5-up ward on the Bladegeist Revenant, so they can have 1 point have a 4-up ward, is really good. 2 lots of 10 Bladegeist Revenants as well, that do basically the same thing. The Cogs and the Purple Sun, obviously reducing the rend down on your opponent, maybe just auto-killing something, reducing the saves on your opponent, maybe auto-killing something. It's a 1-drop, it gets the choice to go first. Once it puts the buffs up on the Bladegeist Revenants, like -1 to wound, 5-up ward save, that unit is outrageously tough to deal with, and then you've got Nagash sat behind it doing all of that stuff. Really interesting. And congratulations there. Right, so let's look at the 4-1 bracket. We've got some very interesting lists in the 4-1 bracket. Shout out to Toby Meadows from Team England, Slow-Mo Toby. He was running a really interesting Knights of the Empty Throne list. So Knights of the Empty Throne is the Slaves to Darkness sub-faction where you can use Vanguard, and when you take Vanguard, they become characters, or heroes, or whatever it is, and then they get the ability to take a command trait and an artifact. So that's wicked, because then you can make them really effective. These were super popular at one point, and Vanguard is still popular now when they've got the Markers Inch. They've got 3-up armor save. Markers Inch gives them a spell ignore and also reroll 1s to their save. So the unit of 6 Vanguard, and you can still reinforce them. So unit of 6 Vanguard is 30 wounds with a 3-up armor save, rerolling 1s with a double spell ignore. Crazy good. Then you've got Inescapable Doom as a command trait, which means that you cannot retreat from them, and then you've got the Grasping Plate, which means you get to pile in from outside of 6 inches and up to 6 inches, which means what happens is people CP, so they auto-run 6 with their movement 12 Vanguard. I think they're 12, might be 10. So either give them 12 or 18-inch range, and then they can just pile in 6 inches. So they've got a very big and effective range for charging. Don't forget Vanguard get to pile once per battle, get to pile in and attack twice, So in the right situation, you can do loads of extra. You can do loads and loads of damage with these, like in a turn that you choose to do so. Then you got the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. Oh wait, did he put them in bounty hunters? No, he didn't. That's good. No, you can't because they're not troops. Okay, perfect. Then the Chaos Sorcerer Lord and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord for possible save and all the good spells like Mask of Darkness, which is a teleport, and he's taken that twice. He had a battle line of 4 units of 8 Iron Golems for holding objectives, and then he had the Mind Stealer Phalanx, which is got the ability to make you fight last, and then the Chaos War Shrine, which has got great buffs. Rerolls to hit, rerolls to wound, as a prayer, put that on a unit of Vanguard, make them fight twice, go crazy. Staying out of the Vanguard threat range is tough. Staying out of the Vanguard threat range is very, very tough. Depending on the TO, you might be able to fight them 3 times, yes. Depending on the TO, of course. Because, he's got Chaos Sorcerer Lord. He's got 2 Chaos Sorcerer Lords. No Chaos Lord. No, he hasn't got Chaos Lord. Anyway, this is a really techie list. Super good. We know that there's a Save Starters book coming on later on in the year, and so I wouldn't necessarily rush out to buy this and play. Toby's a fantastic player. He's got all of the skills to be able to put a list like this into practice. But the key units are still very effective in loads of different lists. We've seen Vanguard being used with Archeon or being used, in 6 circle lists for the extra damage. So it's a really, really interesting set of overlapping buffs. Also, what's really nice about this in a very spell-heavy meta is it ignores huge portions of it, which I think is really excellent. So it's counter magic by just not playing the game, which I think is really key, but still has some wizards for unbinds. And he's also got the ability to make stuff fight last. But his buffs, specifically the prayers, you can't stop, right? So I absolutely love that. I think that's super clever and a really good list. I've seen lists like it before. It's not the newest in the world, but we haven't seen them in the Galette Battle Pack up until now. So shout out to Toby, that's fantastic. Tom Parry was running a Thunder Lizard list, which we've seen plenty of. Lord Croak, Engine of the Gods, Saurus Astronaut, Malabearer, Skink Priest, 5 Saurus Guard, 5 Saurus Knights, and 5 Chameleon Skinks. I think this is a pretty good result for Tom. Tom normally floats around the 3-2-4-1 category, so I think he's going to have gone away from that weekend feeling pretty happy with himself. 2 Battalions with solar engines are in his list as well. Then we had an Inet Deepkin list being run by William Holly, who's just an absolute treasure. Just a treasure of a human. Eidolon of Mathlan, Aspect of the Sea, a Thrallmaster, a Soul Render, 2 Lights of 10 Reavers, 20 Thralls, and then 2 Alapexes and a Leviathan. And he's going to be super chuffed with that result. He should be really happy with that. So well done to him. There was also a great Filth Bringers, so a Rock Coven list. So 3 Rock Coven Bringer Sorcerers being run by Simon Burdett. He should be super chuffed with this. Well done, Simon. He's got 3 sorcerers, which means I think they get +3 to cast when they're all near each other. It might be +2. A lot of afflictions, 2 lots of 4 Puskil Blightlords and 2 Puskil Blightlords. And then he's got the Purple Sun and the Horrorghast. And then 3 Nurglings and a Puskil Blightlord. He did have all of the Puskil Blightlords in Bounty Hunters, so they've got some really great matchups. They've got great matchups anyway. I think Nurgle Flies are always going to be a problem for everyone. Truthfully, Purple Sun to auto-slay stuff, reduce their rend by 1, which is really good for Blightlords, it gives them some rend. Horrorghast, great spell, and like we talked about earlier, you're not going to run away. And I love the Rotbringer Sorcerer list for making either the Purple Sun or the Horrorghast activate doing mortal wounds, because the Rotbringer Sorcerer War Scroll means that when you're affected by spells from endless spells. When you're affected by endless spells that were cast by the Rockbringer Sorcerer, then you start to take disease points, which I think is super, super clever. Hello to Chonga24, first-time chatter. Thank you for subscribing in the chat. Loads of love. Hello, first-time chatter. Simon Burdett, a.k.a. Spuddy. Oh, well done, Spuddy. You should be super chuffed with yourself. Then we got Tom Wallop with a Flesh-Eater Corpse list. This was an Abhorrent Ghoul King Royal Terrorgeist, Art Regent, an Inferno Courtier, and then a Varghulf Courtier, 10 Crypt Ghouls, 9 Crypt Horrors, 9 Crypt Flares, and Chronomantic Cogs. The Cogs for the reroll charges, the Horrors for the screaming, and the Flares for the fighting. The Horrors for the fighting and the Flares for the fighting. Thanks to Ziggy for donating 10 gift subscriptions in the chat. To such legends as Matt Goldsbray in the chat there, and Colvin Mark. So that's really lovely of Ziggy. Thank you so much. So, FEC currently have the best win rate in the game at the moment. So congratulations to Tom on that. Has he cracked the secret sauce that is to make Flesh Eater Courts do better going 4-1? We'll find out. And then Stephen Mitchell over from Ireland was running Slan, Engine of the Gods, Skink Priest, Slan Star Master, and he had Gotrek in his list as well. This is all in Thunder Lizard, so reducing damage by 1. 3 lots of 10 Skinks, 5 Saurus Guard, and a Battalion with Solar Engine with the Purple Sun. Now, Stephen's an excellent player. I think adding Gotrek into your list is also really interesting at the moment. Works super well into flies. There isn't many things that I know can deal with 5 flies, but Gotrek's going to be really, really, really good at that. There are actually some really good lists. Some really good lists where a Gotrek would come in pretty important. I think it's actually super clever of Stephen for staying on meta and really understanding what's out there in the game at the moment. Yeah, Gotrek's not a bad shout. Into the meta at the minute. Like, I like that a lot. That is nice and clever. Well done. And Stephen's also a fantastic player. Okay, so that was everything at Quest of Champions Heat 4, run by the Warrior Lodge guys. You can find them on Twitter, and they constantly run events, so you can be able to find some more events from them, I'm sure, coming up soon. Going over to Texas, TEXAS. We're going to the Harambe's Heroes and the Goldmine Games, Rumble in the Jungle. A man that needs no introduction, Mr. Gavin Grieger, with Harambe's Heroes going 5-0 with Daughters of Cain. Now, what's fascinating about this is he has taken probably the most meta list I've seen him taken to date. Because he's got the Marathi and the Bow Snakes. He's also got some Stab Snakes, like 10 of them. And then 10 Witch Elves, 2 lots of 5 Heart Renders, and Cogs for, I guess, reroll casts on Marathi. And he was the best performing player from Season 1. So Age Sigmar 3.0 to 3.2, Season 1. He was able to absolutely smash it. And that's really good. No surprise. Probably one of the best lists in the game still at this moment. Doing really well and absolutely dominating. So massive congratulations to him. I am very unsurprised that he was able to perform incredibly well. Kelpig with his Night Haunt, just take a moment to find that list, was running a Krulgas Cruciator, 2 Spirit of Torments, a Guiding Souls as the General, 5 Hexrace, 2 units of 20 Dreadscythe Harridans in the Quicksilver Dead, 3 Spirit Hosts, another 10 Harridans, and then 10 Chain Rasps with a Purple Sun, 4 Banshees, and 2 Chain Gas in his list. So Night Haunts just do what Night Haunt does, but nice to see, instead of obviously the other sub-faction, Quicksilver Dead, doing really well here as well, in what I assume is a pretty tough field, being in the Harambe's Hero team. The J to J was running a Maggotkin Nurgle Drown Men list, and that was Blobe, Lord of Afflictions, and then all the Puskil Blight Lords, 3 units of 4. So congratulations to him. We also had Sons of Behemoth doing well again with Christopher Schelling. He had a War Stomper, a Gatebreaker, and 2 War Stompers, 2 Gatebreakers. That was what was in his list. So congratulations to him. He's done really well there. And then also in the 4-1 category is Andrew Foner with a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list. He had a nice little interesting take here. He had slightly more Saurus Guard, so Saurus Astaroth Bannerbearer, Skink Star Priest. This is all in Thunder Lizard. Star Master, Engine of the Gods, Skink Priest as well, and a Starseer. Then 10 Saurus Guard to protect, 10 Saurus Knights, 10 Skinks, and a Battalion with Solar Engine. And then 3 Croxagore, which you never get to see. Now, the Bounty Hunters were the Croxagore, the 10 Saurus Guard, and the 10 Saurus Knights. And I quite like the 10 Saurus Guard as Bounty Hunters. That can make them pretty effective in the right matchup. And that reducing damage down by 1, make them pretty tanky and survive around, which I think is very clever as well. And that's everything from Harambe's Heroes. There was only like 28 players playing. But the Texas boys play a lot of Warhammer. Texas people, sorry, play a lot of Warhammer all the time. And if you ever want to go play some good Warhammer out, you should probably stop down by there and have some fun. Okay, going over to the Steel City GT, which means it was in Detroit. That's probably wrong. I don't know where that is. But anyway, so it's over in the USA, and Ghoul King himself, the Bill, the Hot Suze, as they call him, took the event out with a 5-0 with Fire Slayers. Again, one of the armies with a very low win rate right now. Represented team Wicked Dicey. He's got an Auric Runefather, an Auric Runesmiter, and a Rune Lord in his list. 2 lots of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers, and then 3 Auric Runesons on Magmadroths. Now, if he's running the same ones he was running at Summer Slaughter, he's got a fighty one, a tanky one, and a shooty one. So they all do different jobs. So he's got a real toolbox of units he can match you on the table. They're all in Bounty Hunters as well, so they're all going to get that additional damage, which I think is really excellent. He's also got the Runic Firewall, and then he's got 2 units of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers, and they're in Unmatched Conquerors, so they're going to count as 30 or 3 per 1 on the objective, and that's also really effective as well. So he's got all that extra damage into the opponent. He's got the ability to hold the objectives with very, very fighty Hearthguard Berserkers in his army, and then he's got all of the characters like the Runefather and the Runesmiter to be able to buff those units as well. Thank you to the Fish for what the fuck for donating £100 to the show during the live stream. That's crazy. That's crazy. Fish, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're so crazy. Thanks very much. Fuck me, that took ages. It's gonna take me ages to emotionally recover. Okay, thank you. That's very outrageously kind of you for doing that. And if he can do that, you can like and subscribe, motherfuckers. But thank you. Love you, dude. Oh, well, I love you too. You don't need to do that. Okay, I also love Bill Sousa. Let's talk about his list, and I'll just call you after. This guy, Bill's great. Like, this list will probably have more tricks than it looks like on the tabletop, but also Bill's ability to understand positioning, game state, board space, tempo, and a bunch of other stuff makes him an absolutely excellent Warhammer player. And I'm unsurprised that he's taking this to a 5-0. Don't forget, Bill, one of the few people to take many other factions to 5-0s, which people have not been able to do in 3.0 to 3.2. So you really want to watch out for being able to copy something like Bill's list, because you just aren't as good as him. It's just that simple. Just I'm not as good as him. You're not as good as him. That's kind of the solution to that. So congratulations to him. Okay, so to follow on from Bill doing really well with his Fire Slayer list, the event gets weirder. Weirder and weirder and weirder. So I'm going to say, Tom Guan, my co-host for Summer Slaughter, and an absolute treasure, was running Blades of Corn, Reapers of Vengeance. Now, it would be absolutely fine to think that you're about to see some Min Battle Line and a bunch of Bloodthirsters, but ladies and gentlemen, that is not what you're about to see. He's got a Bloodsecrator, which obviously the +1 attack aura around, a Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, and then a Safe Start in his Demon Prince, and of course, because it's got the Mark of Khorne, it's going to reduce those charges coming in. Then he's got Lord of Khorne on Juggernaut, which makes some of the other units we're about to talk about, Battle Line, and Scarbrand. Now, he's then got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mighty Skull Crushers in a battle regiment. He's got a double battle regiment, making him a 2-drop army. So Skull Crushers are 5 wounds apiece, and they come in units of 3, so 15 wounds with a 3-up armor save. They've got 6 attacks per model, 3s, like 4s and 3s, maybe some Ren, maybe not. No, they're not in Bounty Hunters. They can get an additional attack, I guess, if they're somewhere near the Bloodsecrator. But having seen Scarbrand absolutely go off at Summer Slaughter, I think Tom has just built an entire army just to make sure he can charge Scarbrand at stuff. I think that's what his army is there for. That's it. And then just deleting stuff with Scarbrand. Pretty certain that's what the entire army is here. 75 wounds on a 3-up armor save in the Mighty Skull Crushers, meaning you're probably going to struggle to be able to bounce, like you're going to bounce off some of these units, or you're going to get locked in a fight with some of these units, which gives time for the slower Scarbrand to move up the board and start smashing people's faces in. Crazy list. And that's not where it doesn't stop there. Then Ben Coloss is running a Bone Splitters list with Kragnos, a Wurgog Prophet, 3 lots of 5 Savage Boar Boys, 5 Savage Boar Boy Maniacs, 5 Big Stabbers, and then a Kronspine Incarnate. Not much to say there because a huge portion of this is made up of 1,100 points of other faction stuff in the Kronspine Incarnate and the Kragnos. But he's also got the Wurgog Prophet for the Stair, and then he's got some other things. Mainly minimum battle line units, basically. But congratulations, because that's a fantastic result from the Wicked Dicey crew. Sean Clark, running his Stormcast Eternals list. We saw him run at some Slaughter. So this is Nuke Doctor. Again, a great list. Knight Draconis, Knight Velexer, and Battle Mage. 3x5 Liberators, 4 Stormdrake Guard, and then 10 Protectors, all in a battle regiment. And he went 4-1 with that also at Summer Slaughter. So that's a Stormcast list doing really well. We talked about this earlier in the show, like which Stormcast list is going to do well, and there's one played by a very excellent player as well. And then this is the list that's really got me. So Rob Mulshine, congratulations to you. You've gazumped me today. A Breaker Boss and Mybrute Troggoth, a really good fighting independent kind of solo unit. I think I'm going to call these units kind of duelists. They're really good at just like being a solo unit that's just going to fight a couple of things, grab objectives, and do stuff like that. So great work on the Mybrute, a Breaker Boss and Mybrute Troggoth. Those Doom Balls we talked about earlier were also probably good duelist units. Then he's got Gobsprak, the Mouth of Gork, for his ability to reroll unbinds. I guess it's what we're really going to be looking at there. An Uruk Warchanter, which is going to key in really nicely with his 2 units of 3 Gore Grunters. He's got 3 units of 5 Savage Uruk Ard Boys, and then who are in Unmatched Conquerors, Expert Conquerors, so they're going to count as 15 on objectives. And then he's got 3 Manskewer Bolt Boys, the Kronspine Incarnate, the Wurgog Prophet, and also a Weird Knob Shaman with Great Big Green-Handed Gork. This is a really interesting list because he's got a load of different units here. The Gore Grunters are in Bounty Hunters, so 3 Gore Grunters are really excellent for just being in Bounty Hunters and going murdering stuff. The Ard Boys are also in Bounty Hunters, so really good Galician veterans for doing battle tactics and also holding objectives. They're going to count as 15. Wurgog Prophet's a Master of Magic. That's pretty good. Just lots of bits here, doing lots of stuff, and he's got some real interesting tools. I got to tell you, Rob, not 100% certain how it all works, but you should be super proud of yourself. And also shout out to everyone. A special shout out to Corey, getting 3 wins there with his Lumineth. Corey is just amazing. Thank you for sending the picture of me, the picture to me of you finger painting your miniatures. You're a great human being. So well done. Next up, the Summer of Sigmar, the Gamers Guild Grand Tournament. We're looking at Colt with his Daughters of Cain list going 5-0. Shout out to Colt. You should be proud of yourself. He's got Morathi. He's got a Bloodrat Medusa. He's got a unit of Fighty Snakes. I think that's a unit of 15 Fighty Snakes. And then 4 more units of 5 Fighty Snakes. And then 2 units of 5 Heartrenders. Amazing. Okay, so no Bow Snakes for him. And instead, loads and loads of fighting with those Blood Sisters. Morathi also playing a key role in that army because they don't die. Commandability, magic, shooting, everything Morathi does. Absolutely worth her points in that list. So, just looking at the 4-1 bracket, we've got Tyler with his Slaves to Darkness list and Cameron Halford with his Sylvaneth list. If we look at the Slaves to Darkness army, it had a Chaos Lord, a Chaos Sorcerer Lord, another Chaos Sorcerer Lord, and then a unit of Untamed Beasts, a unit of Chaos Knights, another unit of 5 Chaos Knights, then 2 units of 20 Chaos Warriors with the markers each. That's 80 wounds, and they're all in, obviously, Expert Conquerors. Our Chaos Knights were in Bounty Hunters, making them a very fast and punchy unit, especially into Galician veterans. And then he has the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. So you probably aren't going to take some objectives off those Chaos Warriors. Then the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur is going to go do all of the fighting, and then you're going to attack with those Chaos Knights. This is genuinely a very unique list, and I haven't seen a list like this in a while, so that's super good. And then similarly, our Sylvaneth list has got a Warsong Revenant with Spell Singer, so the ability to cast spells through trees. Tree Lord Ancient with the Arcane Tome and Verdant Blessing, and then 2 units of 2 units of 5 Tree Revs, a unit of 10 Dryads, a unit of 3 Revenant Seekers, and a unit of 6 Spike Rider Lancers, and then a unit of Gossamer Archers, which you never see, or you don't see at the moment. And I think this plays very similarly to how we've seen a lot of the other Sylvaneth lists play. But the Gossamer Archers is a nice, interesting piece of tech, because they can do something very similar to what we saw the Foxes do in a Lumineth Realm Lords list. And I'm not surprised to see them in there. I think that they're very techy, very susceptible to being shot back. But I guess if you just don't put them in bow range, you could do some really interesting and fun stuff with them. Okay, the G&T GT, our final event of today, was the event that was run at the arena this weekend. I guess I ran it along with my co-host Matt, while simultaneously also playing in the event, which I thought was real fun. If we take a look at our winner, Dennis, in the 5-0, the Menace, he beat me on his way to victory. So well done to Dennis. Now, this is Dennis's first 5-0, so a special shout out to him. He's been playing for, I think like in competitive tournaments, maybe like 6 months. This is his first 5-0, so he should be super happy with that. He beat a bunch of people, Adam Mumford, who did really well with his cockatrices last week. I think he also beat Owen. He beat me. So he had I think he beat Cabbage, so he had a very tough path to victory. The G&T GT sounds fun and messy. It was super fun. He had a Guardian of Souls, 2 Krulgas Cruciators, a Spirit Torment, 30 Bladegeist Revenants, 20 Bladegeist Revenants, and 2 units of 3 Spirit Hosts and a unit of reinforced Mimron Banshees. He had double Battle Regiment, and he had a unit of Bounty Hunters, taking him to 4 drops. His 2 units of Bladegeist Revenants, his 30 and his 20, were, of course, his Bounty Hunter units. Now, absolutely amazing stuff here, because that double Krulgas Cruciator means that, because they stack, that even if you're damage 3, you're now damage 1. And then with the ability to just roll 4-up armor saves and having a 5-up ward, it means that you're just absolutely unlikely to kill most stuff in that army. Like, it's really survivable. Really, really survivable with the double Cruciator, meaning that, and then you've got it, but then you just have to do a lot of attacks into it. And that's the real difficult part, making sure you can do lots of attacks to it. It's kind of like mid-board slow, move 8 inches and charge. It's got some really great spell defense from the Mimron Banshees as well, of course. The Master of Magic is a great caster and a great unbinder as well. Dennis has played it really well, really thought about how to play it, pushed it all at his enemy, and just had some amazing results. So he should be super proud. Keep your eye out for more of Dennis the Menace. And then a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Owen Jackson from Team Wales. He has a Sylvaneth list with a Warsong Revenant, an Arch Revenant, and a Battle Mage from the realm of Gur, so +2 to charge. He combos that with a Spike Swarm High for +5 to charge. 5 Kurnoth Hunters with Great Bows, 6 Kurnoth Hunters with Scythes, and then 2 units of 5 Tree Revenants for the teleport, all in a Battle Reg. He's got the Arcane Tome, he's got Master of Magic, he's got the Battle Reg, he's got all of the tricks. He's got the ability to reduce, to add to the Rend with Tree Song. So then he's going to do loads of extra damage with those Kurnoth Hunters with Great Scythes. With Scythes. The bows are going to do shooting at range. He's going to teleport in, charge, fight, teleport away. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Great event. A special shout out at that event to Oliver, his very first 2-day event ever. Special shout out to him. I don't think I've ever seen Rob review his own list before. No, I went 3-2. Well, I actually went 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. So I've only lost to Nighthaunt with that list so far. Just don't have a solution for them. Okay, so what do I think so far, looking at the events and looking at the stats? Kind of the same thing I was feeling last week. Like, we didn't see the Bellicores in play this week, which I think is interesting. Some really clever tech in, like, Khorne Demon Princes shutting stuff down. Slaves to Darkness really featuring a little bit more than I expected, and I think that's really good. Shout out to Toby for that really interesting list, which I thought was really good. And also to our list that we saw 40 Chaos Warriors, which I think is good as well. Some nice tools in the Slaves to Darkness to deal with lots of the things that are out there as well. I guess the real takeaway from this week is that there are just so many different factions and lists that are doing really well. that it really is a player's game at the minute. You can play really well. Now, some of those lists we see time and again, and sure, yes, Seraphon are still crazy good with loads of different units and abilities. But it does really look like a load of people are just making lists that they're making their own, and they're achieving some stuff. Now, we don't really track the battle tactics, so it probably is also true that, like, with battle tactics and grand strategies in play from your own books, that you can build lists that are a little bit more your own, because you really have only got to do like 3 easy battle tactics from the core ones, and then just 2 from your own book. But it really depends on what book you're playing with. But a variety of different lists, a variety of different play styles, and a variety of different results means the game's in a really healthy place, which I think is really good. There's some really nice minutiae for deciding on who plays well and where they play well. And I think that's fantastic. Also, shout out to the Mighty Skull Crushers. I mean, what the hell? Like, what the hell? I hope you've enjoyed the review. Of course, you can subscribe or like and do all those other things. Leave some comments. Share it with your friends. The Honest Wargamer and the Age of Sigmar Stats Centre is the place for competitive Age of Sigmar news and information, in my personal opinion. But that's because I don't watch anything else, so that's why. But I hope you've enjoyed it. And thanks for tuning in.